I'm gonna check the volume is a pretty low. Let me go out and come back in. Okay, I think you're louder now.
Thank God. How are you? Carbon.
Pretty good. Is that Moses in your food?
That is a depiction of Moses, yeah.
Are you Jewish?
I am.
Baruch Hashem, I'm Jewish too.
Ah, great, Achi, what's up?
Baruch Hashem, I've been doing pretty good.
I've seen you pop up a bit. I think it was you in Israel, different Israel posts you popped up in. Am I right?
Yeah, no, I don't. On the server.
I think so. Let me go through it. No, it wasn't you. 1 second.
I'm known for having very controversial opinions on the server.
Okay, what are your opinions?
First off, I'm very, very much against. You know Rambam?
Yeah, I know the Rambam.
I'm very, very pro Maimonides.
So it means you like don't believe in free will outside of like human beings, and even in that it's like very limited. You don't believe in Ashkafa Pratis.
In some ways, yes. I do not believe that the animals have free will. Maybe the angels, maybe.
Oh, okay, but you don't believe in Ashkafa Pratis outside of human beings?
No.
Right. Do you like? Because the Rambam is very controversial. You know that. Like people don't know this. People don't know this, but
the thing that I really do agree with Maimonides about is how we should treat, or what his opinions on the Gentiles, the Muslims and the Christians.
How does he say we should treat the Gentiles?
It's not really the treatment, it's about his opinions on them. I think his opinions are very solid.
His opinion was pretty primitive about everything, including Jews. He was like, as much as people think he was a rationalist, he had primitive opinion on women. Like, he called people, like, anytime he wanted to say someone was stupid, he said, old women and children. Like, he's not my basis of morality, understand? He was a very big rabbi, but he's not my basis of morality. Like, I could show you in Trias Amesim, he gives Trias Amesim, he says, oh, all those old women and children that say stupid things.
Yeah, that's kind of, okay, maybe the way he phrased it was...
He calls women donkeys. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't mean any disrespect to him, but he's not my foundation of ethics.
Well, he is probably the most prominent rabbi in the past couple of centuries.
It could be, but yeah, it could be, but like he also probably didn't believe in like Sheshis Mei Bereshis, you know? Like this probably would have, he probably like didn't believe in, like he was a great rabbi, but like he probably like didn't believe in half of the Chumash.
Okay, he had some very controversial opinions, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he believed, like, I could go through it, because I know a lot about, like, the Rambam. It's one of the things I looked into. He believed, like, I can't even go through, like, some of this stuff. He was, like, a very controversial guy. He believed that the world could have lasted forever. There was no creation.
Well, maybe, I mean, if there was no creation?
He doesn't say there was no creation. He says there's nothing wrong with believing there was no creation. And it makes sense. That's what he says.
Yeah, he's very Aristotelian. I'll give you that.
He starts off the Mir Nevuchim with like 2 paragraphs praising Aristotle to the skies.
Yeah, he's very Aristotle. He doesn't even believe in. He technically doesn't even believe that we even exist.
Yeah, like I understand.
He doesn't even know we exist.
Right. He has crazy opinions. I'm saying.
Yeah, honestly, he's more of a philosopher than a rabbi.
Right.
Yeah, but the thing that I really do respect about him is that his opinions on the other 2 religions, I really do respect them.
What I respect about him is just the sheer amount he accomplished, which means besides for the insane philosophy work he has actually published, that till today is not understood properly. Besides for that, he also wrote probably one of the most impressive works in Halacha. He wrote
Mishnah Torah, right?
People don't even understand. Like I broke down one of the I did like two months on like one of the prakim he did, with opening up all the sources and arguing about it. People don't even realize that like I don't think any other like science religion has that book. That's insane.
Mishnah Torah?
Yeah, Mishnah Torah. Every word is insanely like meduyak. It's insane.
Yeah, Mishnah Torah is amazing.
Yeah.
What do you think about his opinions on the Muslims and the Christians?
So he actually contradicts himself specifically about Muslims. Christians, he happened to be relatively, like, from my knowledge, very unspoken about. So like he didn't like that many Christians.
No, he fucking hates them.
Let me go through it. Muslims, he actually not contradicts himself. I think he's talking about different groups of Muslims, but I think it was one of the groups of Muslims that were like the worst. He wrote in Triyat HaMetim that those Jews have had suffering as bad ever since the Muslims took over. However, he also early on wrote that Muslims were one of the greatest things that happened, and he calls Muhammad, who was the insane. He would call him like the insane. He was called an insane prophet. So to an extent, he thought he was a prophet, but he also thought he was insane. Right?
Okay, you want to hear my opinions on this because I have read about this extensively.
Yeah.
Okay, so Maimonides' opinions. First off, he's an Arab. Okay, people say he's Spanish. He's not Spanish. He's Arab. Okay. The first thing is, as a religion, if we're talking about Islam as a religion, Maimonides does respect it. Okay, he really does respect it, and he has made several inferences that if you're not born Jewish, you should be Muslim because that's the only Noahide religion.
Yeah.
He does respect it. What he hates is the whole the treatment of Bnei Israel under Bnei Ishmael, and he does have a I'm not sure who wrote this, but it was a book called it was an article called In the House of Ishmael, and Rambam was quoted several times because his opinions on the Ishmaelites were very harsh in some ways.
Yeah, I know.
See, I'm part Ishmaelite, by the way.
What?
I'm part Ishmaelite, not Muslim, but Ishmaelite.
Nice.
Yeah, my mother is a Jew. Okay.
So you're Jewish. So that's funny. Like if your father's a Muslim and your mother's a Jew, then you're both Muslim and Jewish according to both of us.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But the thing with my father is that, okay, Muslims do not believe that all Muslims are Ishmaelites, but my father is very Ishmaelite. He's from Banu Tamim.
What's your father believe?
He has this entire family tree that traces all the way back to Ishmael himself.
Wow.
It's very impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I have my family tree all the way back to Levi.
Levi, right?
Yeah, I'm a Ben Achaben of Kahos, which means I'm not sure I've been his great granduncle.
I don't have a tribe because my father isn't Jewish.
Right, I feel you. No, I get that.
But the thing with Yishmael is that nobody knows if he's actually a good person or a bad person.
I think you have different midrashim on it that contradict each other when you get to that. So you have some midrashim that paint him as a good person, some people that paint him as a bad person.
I think he repented. That's the thing, and
right.
This is the good thing about the story of Ishmael is that God does accept repentance.
Not only did he repent, but God took his side in the story, right? God was upset, despite the fact that God said, listen to Sarah, then the Abishter was also very upset that then he didn't give them water, and the Abishter gave them water, you know, and it seems like, from reading the story, it seems like they were on the good side. Have you ever listened to what's his name, the chief rabbi of Shalom of England?
Yeah.
Sachs. You ever heard his idea of contradictories in the Torah?
Well, I mean, if you want to be honest,
yeah,
the Torah has a ton of contradictions.
It does, but his whole idea is that Judaism has this new lens of things don't have to add up. He has this brilliant idea where in every other religion there can only be one narrative. You can't have two narratives. In Judaism
kind of depends on how you interpret it.
What?
Judaism does depend on your interpretation.
The idea is that every single story in Tanakh, there's more than one perspective. Shiri Torah is the basis of Judaism. And you have every single different source, and it's always every single time. You're like, wow, they contradict each other, full on contradict each other. You read Rashi and then you read Rashbam, and they were the same generation, explaining the same verse, and they totally contradictory.
Yeah.
It's like, I think only Judaism has that, and it makes so much sense when you think about a poem that is really deep. There's more than one meaning to the poem, obviously, and they're gonna be contradictory ideas in that one poem. So why do we think that a book God wrote can't have contradictory ideas?
Yeah, but the thing is, and this is what I never understood, is that Yishmael was a very gray area in Judaism.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Nobody knows if he was a good person, if he was a bad person. The Talmud says that he used to bully Yitzchok.
Right. And not only that, there is no like limud that we say to make him a bad person. So you should.
But it's very clear. If you read the Torah extensively, it is very clear that Ishmael was Abraham's favorite.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's true.
No,
Can I prove you wrong?
He was very.
Like that kind of disproves the whole. No. And that's Yitzchok.
Yeah, but the thing is, when Avram was kicking him out of the house and he was taking him to the desert, he was very sad about it.
Because nevertheless he liked him, but who was his favorite? It clearly says in the verse.
At first, if you really look at it, he did want Ishmael to be his heir. He didn't know that he was gonna have Isaac. He wanted Ishmael to be his heir. He didn't even think about Yitzchak.
So that could be true, but I want to point out that when the verse said that you have to sacrifice your son, it says the one you love the most.
The one you love most, yeah.
So, and that's talking about Isaac, Yitzchak.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe at some point he changed his mind. I'm not sure. But by the point of the sacrifice, it obviously was Yitzchak that he liked most.
Yeah, but I don't know. I kind of feel bad for the Ishmaelites now, actually.
Right. No, I understand.
I really do feel bad for them because, see, as I said, my father is not Jewish. My father is an Ishmaelite. So the thing is, I've always been kind of conflicted.
Yeah, I get you. I want to say about this topic right now, is that a famous argument Muslims bring up is that people memorize the Quran and people don't memorize Tanakh.
Yeah,
I want to look at now disprove that. I have 5 friends who know the entire Tanakh by heart.
I would get the entire Torah, but the entire Tanakh is wild.
No, I have friends who know the entire Tanakh, and personally, I have many friends who know the Torah by heart. Many. Right.
But
I'm going to know the Torah by heart by the time I pass away because I'm doing it every single year 5 times.
Yeah, but like, what were we saying? Yeah, I still think that the Muslims are probably the closest religion to Judaism when you think about it.
In some ways, yeah. In some ways, no.
I mean, it's definitely not the fucking Edomites. It's definitely not the Christians.
So can I change your mind on that?
What, you want to tell me that the fucking idol worshippers are close to us?
In some ways, yeah.
I think it's only because they accept the Tanakh and that's it.
Can I give you more ways than just accepting the Tanakh? So first of all, I am very pulled on whether, Eastern Christians, East Orthodox Christians are actually idol worshippers. I don't know if they are. I don't think they are.
Yes, they are.
Can I prove you wrong?
Can I prove myself right first?
Yes. First, prove yourself right. Why do you think they are idol worshippers?
Why do I think that they're idol worshippers? Okay, so what's the greatest commandment in Judaism? It's Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Yes.
Okay. Echad, the Christians like to say that it means unity, but when you look at it, Echad means one. We're a monotheistic religion. We're the first of the monotheistic religions. God makes it very clear that He's one and only one. And when He says in Bereshit, when He says, let us make man in our own image,
yeah,
it's a royal plural. There's no other people. There's no one else but God. It's not a trinity. It's not two.
I'm asking. I agree with you on this one. I agree with you on this that we don't believe what Christians believe. I agree with you, of course.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that you're idol worshippers. Do you know the difference between Shituf? Do you know the difference between Shituf and Avodah Zarah?
Yes, Shituf is idolatry. Idolatry. Avodah Zarah is foreign worship. It's incorrect, but it's not Shituf. It's borderline Shituf.
Actually, it's the opposite. Like, I don't want to, like there's a machloket Rashi and Tosfot. There's a machloket Rashi and Tosfot whether Goyim are allowed to believe in Shituf or not. Avodah Zarah, no one's allowed to believe in. No one's allowed to believe in Avodah Zarah. Shituf, it's a machloket. And we pass in halachah.
I don't think the Muslims are either of them.
No, the Muslims are neither of them, but Christians are obviously Shituf.
The they're idolatrous, and that's why I think that we're allowed to pray.
allowed to be shituf, according to Tosfot, that we follow. We follow Tosfot.
Yeah, but when you look at it, okay, so you have the Shiva Mitzvot B'nai Noach. The Muslims follow each and every one, the Christians don't.
Why don't they follow each and every one?
Okay, because first off, it does state that God is one and that you do have to believe in the God of B'nai. What?
Research shituf. Check it out, because it sounds like you don't know what shituf is.
Isn't shituf idolatry?
No, shituf is, there are two forms of idolatry. Number one is believing in different gods, and number two is believing that God is comprised. And number two is believing that God is comprised. That is what the Trinity is, right?
Yeah, they think God is comprised, yes.
That is shituf, that's not idolatry. Idolatry is believing on gods.
Shituf is the equivalent, see, I'm an Arabic speaker, shituf is the equivalent of what the Muslims call shirk, which means association.
Yeah, I guess so. But in halakha, shituf is not a problem for. It's not so simple if it's a problem for me.
I mean, let's be as literal as possible. If we look at it from a linguistic perspective, the Christians are both on Avodah Zarah and they're on shituf. The Muslims are on neither.
How about we look at it from a halachic perspective?
Sure.
Because I can't halakha. Let's follow the Rambam, who believes there's nothing wrong with shituf according to Goyim. Like, if you're Maimonidean, you should open up. He talks about this, right?
Yeah.
Check it out. But Goyim and Arabi is two things. They're not Arabi approxim, which means they have to believe in God, and they're not Arabi in two separate, non-connected gods.
Okay, but are the Muslims...
They don't do either.
Yeah, but are the Bnei Ishmael righteous? That's the question.
Bnei Ishmael are better in this regard. I agree with you. They are better.
See, they worship God. They don't associate any partners with God because their God is one, the same as ours. They pray 5 times a day, which I really do respect. They used to face Jerusalem just like us when they were praying. Now they face Mecca, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What else? I believe that Muhammad had some okay ideas compared to Yeshua.
Okay, I don't know. Everyone can be misquoted.
See, as I said, my father is Muslim, so I do know quite a lot about this. And a lot of the time it is misinterpreted.
But I understand, but if you're going to go on misquotes, I can quote to you that in the end of days, right, they're going to chase the Jews down behind the sticks and stones.
Yeah. But that doesn't matter because in the end everyone dies.
Right, everyone dies because I get it, yeah?
Yeah, everyone dies in the end, so nobody actually cares.
Right. It's one of those, like, you don't actually, like Mashiach.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we have to realize that the Muslims technically are our cousins, both spiritually and biologically. And Ishmael disliked Isaac. I won't say hate, but he did dislike him.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a prophecy that has been fulfilled. We can say that.
Yeah, I hear that. No, I hear that. What I want to say is, okay, first of all, I concluded that all Christians aren't necessarily Avodah Zarah. It's a machloket. What Eastern Orthodox believe is even better. What Eastern Orthodox believe is that God controls the body. And that we believe, like, there's nothing wrong with the Yid believes that. Right? If a Jew believes that, so God controls trees, so why can God control the body? That's not Avodah Zarah at all. Like, I don't believe that, and that's the machlok, the Rambam and the Ravid, right? The famous machloket in Hilchot Shvat, Perek Vav. But I don't believe it. But there's nothing wrong with believing it, as the Ravid clearly points out.
Yeah, but with you, I mean, you're allowed to pray in a mosque. You're not allowed to pray in church.
True. Because for Jews, it's a machloket. I would never pray in a church, even in an East Orthodox church, because of the history and the connotations. Muslims haven't killed thousands and thousands of Jews. There were wars here and there. You know, there were like some ugly wars, but besides for that...
Yeah, because the thing is, this is something that most people do not realize. The Christians, they thought that Jews were objects of fear. They feared us because, according to them, we killed Yeshua. But the Muslims don't think that. The Muslims think we're just objects of ridicule.
I don't know if your mother's Ashkenazi or not, but if your mother's Ashkenazi...
She's not. We're Mizrahi.
Oh, okay. Well, the Ashkenazi Jews for 2,000 years have been tortured. Even many Sephardim Jews for big years by Christians.
Yeah, our family didn't face that. We lived amongst the Muslims, and so we lived quite well, actually.
Which I'm very happy to hear that, but my family's Ashkenazi, and we were tortured like our entire life. not 1
No,
year,
it's
not 10
because
years.
the thing is, that people, some Jews, especially in Israel, when I went to Israel, but they did really like to badmouth the Muslims, and they were like, oh, they made us pay jizya, and they did. Nobody, that's not a problem, you know. You had to pay a tax to the state anyway.
Right. Yeah, no, I don't find jizya that horrifying. The only problem with jizya is what it's written in the Quran why you have to give it. Like, that's a problem. Because the purpose of jizya is to make us feel embarrassed.
I mean, okay, but not really, but I mean, okay, so I'll explain this in modern terms, alright? You have to pay taxes in any country, right?
Yes.
And you lived under Muslim protection, which is true. So a lot of the Jews, they came from the Christian lands, and they went to Saudi Arabia because it was safer.
Yes, true.
And we didn't face the same oppression by the Ishmaelites that we faced from the Edomites.
True.
And so what happened was, okay, you can live with us. There's no issue with you living with us. We're not going to oppress you. But you should at least pay a tax in case anything happens, okay? Because as a foreigner living in their country, okay, they're forced to protect you, so you should at least pay them back.
Right. So what I said is I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem is with the words that are used in the Quran. The words in the Quran are in order to humble and
force them to pay the jizya until they submit. Yes.
Until not submit until they are humbled. Until they are
You want to know the context behind it.
Right. So I'm not a big scholar. I don't like criticizing other religious verses because just like when I understand that anti-Semites quote Talmudic verses, they don't know the first thing about it.
Yeah.
So I have enough.
But I'll tell you this though. There is a context behind the verse, and it's that it came at a time where some Jewish tribes did. Okay, so obviously the Muslims signed peace treaties with the Jews at the time, so they won't attack each other. This is historically proven that the Jews betrayed Muhammad and Muhammad's army, and so in retaliation he fucking killed each and every one of them.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna.
Which he did say, he did warn the Jews that he would do if they ever betrayed him. He didn't do it out of spite, okay? He's not crazy, he didn't do it.
I'm not sure if I agree with that. I don't want to argue on this too much because I'm not as much of a expert as other people might be on this, like I mentioned earlier. But many of it doesn't seem like it's necessary. First of all, I don't believe in the accuracy of the Quran for quite a few reasons. I don't take the Quran so accurately.
This isn't part of the Quran. This isn't mentioned in the Quran.
This is a historical thing.
It's a historical
religion are you? I just got here.
Hold on a second. Yeah, it is a historical opinion.
It's a historical opinion. Okay. And second of all, the Quran object. Yes. Who's Mal? Yeah.
What religion are you? I just got here.
I am Jewish. I'm an Orthodox Jew.
Continue.
Okay. So although in the Quran's objection to Jews, it is a bit disturbing. So for one, it demonstrates a basic lack of understanding Jewish ideology when he criticizes the Jews not giving up their life. So for example, he says oh, you Jews, if you are the chosen nation, then you should want to die because heaven, of course, which is such a obviously lack of understanding Judaism and the whole purpose.
I agree on that.
Right. And it wouldn't bother me that much if it wasn't for big anti-Semites like Muhammad Hijab quoting that, thinking he's smart. You know, if the Quran said it, it's fine. What?
Yeah, but I don't think that that Muhammad, the author of the Quran, or the father of the Muslim faith, I don't think that he was really anti-Semitic. He didn't as I said before, he didn't.
I thought he was talking about Muhammad Hijab.
He didn't consider. Hold on, Luigi. He didn't consider the Jews, as I said before, and I have mentioned several times. He didn't consider the Jews objects of fear, but objects of ridicule.
And he definitely was less anti-Semitic than many of the church fathers. I agree with you. But he definitely shared quite a few anti-Semitic sentiment that then definitely passed down to many of his disciples. And you see verses quoted I cannot look at Jews in the eyes, and different verses that I wouldn't have known about. It's not like I was looking into it to try to see if it's anti-Semitic, but different Muslims made it sure that I know this. Different Muslims came over to me and said, you know what, I hate you.
That's bullshit. That's bullshit. The Quran doesn't say that you're not allowed to look Jews.
Not the Quran, the Hadiths. The Hadiths.
But Hadiths can be fabricated. It's just it's basically a Muslim Talmud.
Yeah, I understand, but if the Talmud says that this rabbi said it in his name, the difference is Talmud was far away from Moses, but if there was a Talmud that came from Moses, you know, it's just as reliable, like, I guess, if there's historical accuracy to it. And there are different ways to judge which hadith is trustworthy.
Okay, so Lightning, you mentioned Muhammad Hijab, right? The
Yes.
YouTube guy who's like a Salafi apologist?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not very fond of it.
That guy's ridiculous. As a Muslim, I find that guy ridiculous.
All right. Well,
Okay.
let's.
I appreciate you saying that. 'Cause
Yeah. Let's.
I asked any Muslim.
Let's
I
move.
asked on a Muslim chat.
Let's
People
move on.
like Muhammad Hijab. Because I was telling someone that Muhammad Hijab isn't a good representation. He's just an idiot. And then he's like, okay, ask him.
Yeah. Let's.
You like him?
I'm on the same page with you, Lightning, for real.
Okay, I just find him not about like his anti-Semitism disturbing. Like there are many people that are anti-Semitic, right? For example, there is the Muslim skeptic. I don't think he's stupid. I think he's a relatively smart guy. He just happens to be very anti-Semitic, right? But Muhammad Hijab is less anti-Semitic, more just stupid. More just like he lacks basic like common sense. You know what I'm saying? Like it's pretty easy to win a debate against a Christian on Trinity. Somehow he continuously goes and loses debates.
All right. Let's get on the topic of the death penalty. What's your stance on the death penalty?
Yeah. If I'm correct, Mal, you are on the position that it is always wrong.
It's always wrong with exceptions.
Oh, and Mal, what is your religious background again?
That can be for another time. We're not here on religion.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not arguing on a religious perspective. That's not my
I know. I was just like Lightning was Jewish. I was wondering what you were.
Yeah, we can do that another time.
Ask me what I am.
What are you?
I'm a Scientologist.
You're Cyclops.
No, you're not. You're actually a Scientologist?
Absolutely.
You are not a Scientologist. You are Cyclops. I know who you are. Carbon left.
On what grounds are you against the death penalty?
Well, there are exceptions to it, but generally, I'm against it, being that I don't see it really being necessary.
You're cutting out.
Yeah, I'm on the grounds that I don't really see the death penalty for convicted criminals or convicted people, that they ought to receive fatal execution or the death penalty.
Well, you sound like a robot. It's really hard to hear you.
Did everybody else hear me clearly?
Okay, Mon, while you're trying to figure that out, can I state my position on why I believe it?
Hold on. Can everybody else hear me clearly? That's the question.
Yes.
That's better. Yeah, that's better.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead and explain your position.
Go ahead, Lightning.
Oh, okay. So we are talking more practically than ideologically. Even if like we believe that like hypothetically murder would be like wrong, if it's the best solution, we can't, have an idealistic perspective where it doesn't work. I think on this premise we could agree with, so I'm not gonna like try to prove this. Unless later on someone argues with it, I'll prove it. Currently we must agree that the current system is internally screwed. It's a terrible system. So you have the prison system where a person has taken his entire life, locked behind a bar, to do nothing behind a cell, and his entire life is wasted. He cannot speak to family, he cannot speak to anyone he loves, anyone he ever cares about. And you might be like, well, that's for the greater good of being able to prevent crime. Besides for the fact that a human being is intended to be able to add to the world, to do something, and to have a life, and now he's locked in a cell, it actually doesn't prevent crime that much. Every other statistic or study made on the subject of prisons seems to show that any other form of punishment more than the current form of punishment that is today, right? So you must ask, okay, this isn't a good form of punishment. It's just not working. It's not successful. In Sweden, they made communal service, and the crime went down 30% more than it does before they made prison systems. Right? It's just not a functioning system. The problem is there are people who are actually dangerous. We're locking them away. So I first want to make sure that like people understand how bad currently the prison system is, because nobody seems to like understand how like actually disturbing it is. All that I just said now about people's life being locked away, those are people who never come out. Those who have the misfortune of actually leaving prison are now 70% more likely to do crime again once they leave it within 5 years, and 56% more likely within the first year of leaving prison. That means 56, over half percent of the people are more likely to do a crime within the first year of actually leaving a prison. We must agree that the prisons are bad. We must agree that prisons are actually bad, if that's what's going on right now, right? It gets even worse because that's all on an ethical and moral perspective. I think it's wrong to take someone like Harvey Weinstein and then take someone like SBF and they put them both in a lifetime prison. They got the same punishments. SBF, who did like criminal like tax evasion and like a Ponzi scheme, he got the same as Harvey Weinstein and what's his name?
The case that you're building is that the current prison system just sucks, but it's not the case for why the death penalty should be allowed.
That is true, but once I build the case that the current system sucks, then we could try to figure out other systems, and the other systems almost all will include death penalties, and I could go through them all, but I think that...
Okay.
Alaikum assalam.
Okay.
Anyways, so the current prison system, and all that's from like an ethical...
Can I take a bite out of you?
I had this debate before with Habibi Sandwich, so okay. Anyways, all this is on like an ethical perspective. Then there's the money perspective, which is $81 billion are used annually per year on the prison systems. $81 billion every year. That is like 5 times the amount Elon Musk makes a year. $81 billion is... Obviously, the system we are doing is expensive, unsuccessful, and everything else.
Can you tell me why the death penalty would fix that?
Okay, if you were to allow those who do actually dangerous crimes and be locked away forever, besides for the ethical issue of punishing, Harvey Weinstein the same as punishing SBF, besides for that problem being solved, you also have the problem solved of there is something that is in the end of prison, and that is we kill you. We don't believe it is our value. I think, Aristotle explained that the definition of just and justice is giving someone what he deserves. That is justice. If you don't give someone what he deserves, then that is not justice. I think someone like Epstein, his deserving is the lack of death. He doesn't deserve life anymore. And when we get to the point of, and this is by a lot of people, anyone who does a crime bad enough that we're going to lock him away for the rest of his life, he should also deserve the punishment of the not living.
So let me ask a question.
Would be,
Let me ask you a question because you're probably just going to go on for I don't know how long. Let me ask this question.
Okay,
So all prisoners, let's say productive prisoners, you support for them to have the death penalty as well?
No. Any non-violent crime should be able to be solved with community service and slavery. And I think that's much more moral than the system.
No. Even these were people that were convicted murderers. Maybe the heinous of crimes, but they're productive prisoners. Do you support for them to have the death penalty?
What do you mean by productive prisoners?
Well, they take They take prison jobs. They help with a lot of things inside the prison, like running the prison or doing a lot of services inside the prison, running different programs in the prisons.
For them to eventually leave. Anyone who doesn't have the opportunity whatsoever to actually leave, then we should put them to use, either through like experiments or like we shouldn't keep paying them, giving them a three course like meals a day, food, prisons like that. They should give us more than we take than they take. It's kind of wrong that they cost America. Why do they cost so much to America?
Well, a lot of things could be at cost, but that's not to mean you just kill. You don't just killing. You're not just killing people because they cost money. That's not really a justification.
We kill people because we kill people because they lost the right to life. That's why we're killing people. Because they did a crime big enough that we now lock them away forever, and we shouldn't have to pay for that.
Well, people that get life imprisonment have not lost their right to life. But are you saying that people? Are you saying that?
People who shut up a school.
Are you saying that? Yeah. Are you saying that those people that shut up a school, whatever you want to say, and then now are productive prisoners, you're saying they should have the death penalty?
Yeah, 100% I agree with you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think if it's possible to free him eventually, then no. If he's helping us more than he's not helping us, right? But if his crime is now costing us, and he's heinous enough that we lock him away forever, yes.
Okay, so it sounds like you're not altogether for the death penalty, not 100%.
No, I'm not altogether 100% for the death penalty, but I think it is the best solution we have currently if we implement it with other things.
Because I'm not 100 against it. Like I said, I do have exceptions. Like if somebody is like like the prison break, people may want to go on a prison break or break out of prison or become a
Dude, I really
fugitive.
can't understand you. Your mic is
Uh,
muffled.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you said.
yeah, people are talking while I'm speaking.
No,
Can
it's
you
your
repeat it?
mic.
Okay, I'm gonna just ask this question again. Can I be heard clearly by everyone?
No.
Hello? Can I be heard clearly by everyone?
No.
No. There's a static and wind noise in your mic. So,
O-
likely until he fixes this problem, let
Okay,
me
can
ask
I be
you,
heard now clearly?
what do you think about textile?
Can I be heard now clearly?
Yes, you
Yeah.
can be heard.
Yeah, so like I was saying, the exceptions I would say is if the person that breaks out of prison, if the prison system is failing to contain that individual, which was the point of the prison system in the first place, and they go out and commit the same crime, there is no other option but stopping that person through death. That's my only exception to that.
Um, I understand. Do you understand my approach? Is my approach understandable even to you?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we disagree on like the details, but we can both agree that any system that is currently more successful and more ethical than the current system is a better system than the current system.
Okay, let's say we have a way better system. Instead of our shitty prison system that stuffs them in the box for like years until they die and costs a bunch of money, we have some community service or some like indentured servitude way that people can live out their life that actually produces value for others. Okay? For society. So now it's not costing money, but it'll like say break even. Okay?
There you go. There you go.
Are you still in favor of the death penalty in that situation?
Yes.
Why?
So this will go to a different opinion, and this is my more controversial opinion. So I understand if you don't like agree with this one. Um, in the Western civilization, I'm not here to crap on the Western civilization, but in the Western civilization, we gave this inherent value to life. And I'm not saying that killing life is, of course, okay, but we gave this like insane God value that life is the ultimate thing you can ever reach. And besides for the fact that I don't believe in rights, I don't believe I believe we have moral, obligations. Don't kill someone is a moral obligation, but there isn't a right in actual life. There's no such thing. It's a very Western idea, but I don't agree with it. It doesn't make sense, and many philosophers don't agree with it. To suggest like someone has a right. So that understood. When someone violates someone's right, we for some reason see that other rights are now okay to be violated. So there's a certain right that you call like freedom. So how come we can take away the right of your freedom is because you violated my right of freedom, so now we violate yours. So a similar argument can be made when you just shut up a school, you lose your right, so-called, or whatever. We lose the obligation to now difference whatsoever. If there's no difference whatsoever, then we should keep you alive because it's a good thing to keep you alive. But if it does cost us, if it does make life slightly harder, if it doesn't actually commit the right, act that you want people to understand that like murdering is wrong in the same strength, then I think that the prison system the execution system should be implemented.
Yeah, I guess what you're kind of touching up on is where do rights come from exactly, right? So I don't know about other countries, but in Quebec, the rights are granted to individuals by the state because the state grants rights. The state has sole permission, authority to revoke your rights, all of them.
This is an ethical question, not a legal question, right?
Yeah, it is a bit of an ethical question because you're talking about the idea of rights not making any sense. So we have to dive into it a little bit, right? Because
if it's the government that gives you rights, they can also take it away, as you said. So then government can kill you.
Yes.
Like they give you the right to live. Okay, so
exactly. But in the States, the idea is that these aren't rights given to you by the government; these are God-given rights.
Yes.
Right.
Even
that
God-given
the government is responsible for protecting.
Even God-given rights are then taken away. So like the right of freedom is then taken away when you violate someone else.
Yeah, but if your freedom infringes on my rights, then the government has a responsibility to protect my freedom and remove the aggressive agent, the bad actor, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
I'm sorry, I blanked out. I didn't hear what just happened.
The government has a responsibility to protect the rights of its citizens, and if that means infringing on the rights of other citizens that are harming people, then that is a responsibility that the government should uphold.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. So you're saying it's not like we take away your rights, it's that other people's rights overweigh your rights.
Exactly. Like if we have a mass murderer who's taking away people's rights to freedom, then the government has a responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, and I could think through it. I don't think that would necessarily contradict my idea. I personally don't believe in rights.
I'm putting pushback. I'm just giving you a little bit of pushback to think through some things. I'm not disagreeing with you necessarily.
I understand. As I said earlier, I don't really believe in rights. I believe in obligations. So we have an obligation to protect people, and we have an obligation not to kill people. But after a certain amount of like danger or harm, or somebody loses my value of not, of keeping them alive. And obviously this makes much more sense, and that's why if somebody kills my, like, let's say, like Clash of somebody kills my mother or something, then I will have a big right to be pissed at him than a random stranger, and I wouldn't be upset that a random stranger isn't upset at him. But I should be upset, and if I'm not upset at him, then there's something wrong with me.
Well, you just
but
elect.
Isn't it better to have the moral obligation be on the state rather than individual actors?
Obviously, I was bringing an example to prove that there isn't like an intrinsic right, but there is a certain obligation, and the government has the obligation not to kill people as long as you don't kill too many other people.
Okay.
Or rape.
Yeah, but you just elect and support to kill people because of money. That's one of the points of your position.
It's not because of money alone. It's because of a cluster of different reasons.
Not only money.
A cluster of different reasons. And one of them is money. And the reason behind money isn't because money will make it better for us, we get more money. The reason is because you violated our rights, and now in order to keep us safe, we now have to spend more money on you when we could just kill you. That doesn't make sense. It's like you punched me, and in order for me to stop punching you, I now hire 5 security guards. Or I can just punch you, and now you won't punch me.
I have a question for you, Lightning. This is a little bit off topic, so I hope you don't mind. The question is, what do moral obligations look like in a world where rights don't exist?
Very similar to the current moral obligations. Like many, just to explain this to you, my idea of moral obligations isn't an original idea. It's similar to Michael Sandel's idea of communitarianism, and it's similar to many other philosophers who never believed in rights throughout history. Rights is a very new modern, I don't think Aristotle believed in rights. No, none of the older philosophers believed in rights. It's a very modern, like Western concept of rights. Read Aristotle's books. He clearly didn't believe in rights.
Okay, I'm not familiar with what Aristotle's position was, so could you elaborate on it a bit?
Yeah, I can elaborate on it. The idea is that every single person, this is Michael Sandels, just to give you a background of who Michael Sandels is, and he isn't like my role model. I don't agree with him politically on anything. I just like this concept. He is currently the professor of Oxford University on medical ethics and morality. Okay, and he does these things where he discusses medical ethics. He built something called communitarianism, in which he believes that ethics are an individual-based thing that then build up to a collective. And so, for example, I was born into a world, and this world is what I have to build off. So there are different people who believe different ethics. The question goes like this: am I born with a certain amount of obligations on top of me? So do I have to give back to my family? Or am I born on a clean slate? So Pascal's a very famous Christian philosopher, he believed that yes, I am born absolutely empty, and I owe nothing to anyone. But obviously, most Western civilization doesn't agree with this.
All right.
I think that's pretty obvious.
All right. So
So then you have all the other philosophers. Sorry.
Yeah. Just back on the death penalty. So just to get it straight, a person that has murdered somebody, been sentenced to life imprisonment, and that prisoner is living out a constructive life in prison, are you for them still getting the death penalty for that person?
No, if it would be possible that someone didn't didn't do something heinous enough that he should be killed on his own. Nevertheless, his punishment is good enough, even though he's keeping out a fulfilling life and managing to add to the world. No, I do not believe he should be killed. I have an innate problem with someone totally wasting his life away. We having to pay for that because of the crime he made, and it not actually reducing crime.
What do you mean by What do you mean by wasting his life away?
I don't think there is much meaning or life behind being in a cell your entire life.
Not giving value to society.
What?
I say, don't give value to the society.
Don't give what?
Value.
Value.
He doesn't give value to society.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't give value to society, he did a bad enough crime that like he should be locked away for the rest of his life. He's costing a lot of money, and doesn't actually decrease crime. Then yes, he should be killed.
So you said wasting a life away and costing money. Is that right?
It was the cluster of four things. Where exactly I'm going to draw the line, I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't exactly know at what point should I say
let's
no.
make a very clear delineation. I don't think anybody here is against the death penalty if it was practical.
Right.
Is that fair to say? Like, if we could turn prisoners, like horrible prisoners, into a fucking factory that produces energy, like turn them into batteries, right? And now they're actually productive people, members of society, against their will. Like,
yeah, I would be
for that.
Well, I'm saying I'm only for the I'm saying I'm only for the death penalty if that person cannot be stopped to do their crime. That's it.
I got that. But would you be anti? The question just now was, would you be anti-slavery, basically, that you use them into a factory? Would you be against that?
No, slavery can be good. I'm just gonna throw that in there as a monkey wrench.
Right. I agree with you on that. In some contexts, slavery could be acceptable. Like.
Does anybody disagree? Slavery can be good.
Yes. What's the name disagreed in the beginning?
Okay.
Somebody disagreed. I forgot who it was.
No, I disagree. I don't think slavery can be good. I think slavery is objectively bad.
So are you against?
There's scenarios. Scenarios where you have to use it to punish somebody.
So that is good, right?
No, I wouldn't say it's good. It is still bad. It's just a necessary evil.
So punishing people is not good.
Well, paying evil with evil doesn't make you good. Just make sure about just as evil.
We go to war. You agree that if someone attacks you, you can fight back?
Yes, I agree.
Even though you're killing people on the way. Even though you're murdering people on the way.
Okay, so what would you?
I agree, but that doesn't make you good. It just makes you.
Okay, so what would be the right thing to do? What would be the right thing to do of that so-called punishment that you don't really believe is good?
Well, in an ideal world, there would be no need for punishment.
No, in this world we're in right now, what would be good?
In this world, well, this would be good. The ideal good stays the same. The ideal good is the objective good.
No. In order,
what should we do? What would you do? You're president right now. What would you do?
A necessary evil, and I would enslave somebody that can't be stopped from committing crimes.
Oh, okay. So you're not arguing with us.
No, he's saying that stopping somebody from hurting somebody else is evil, pretty much.
No, I'm saying you're committing a necessary evil.
You're saying that is evil. You're saying it's the evil with another evil. So if I'm stopping you, if I'm imprisoning you from doing something else, that's evil, according to what you're saying.
Okay, we're going on over here in a semantic argument. Because he's calling it evil and you don't like calling it evil, but that's ignoring the point that.
I'm just pointing out the inconsistency. I'm pointing out the inconsistency in what he's saying.
I understand, but you agree that right now, if you were president and you had all the power in the world, you would implement slavery short term.
Me?
Yeah, you.
For who? Depends on for who.
A criminal who just shot up 5 schools.
Okay, sure. I think it's more productive than what we're doing with prisoners now.
Thank you. So we all in agreement. We just don't like the words we use.
He said it's evil to imprison people.
What do you think about exile them? Why killing them? You can exile them from society.
Okay, I appreciate you asked this because you asked it a few times. If it's more convenient than killing them, then definitely we should exile them. But even then, there's a certain unjust about someone who just shot up 5 schools and him getting away with it.
Yeah, you need to strike a balance between justice and then what is the good.
The problem is what does justice look like? Right? Some people could say putting anybody through slavery, despite what they did, wouldn't be justice. Right? We have to be very clear what we mean by justice. Because then we'd be talking past each other if we don't define exactly what justice means to achieve.
I don't want to give fancy definitions, so I simply explain it. I would be upset if there was a person who shot up 5 schools and now he lives in Mexico free of rent,
Yeah, I agree.
free of charge. I would be upset about that.
Fair.
It means I'm not going to implement that law.
The problem
But there
is,
are
would
people
you
who
let
think
that
that
person
disco
continue
sugar
to shoot
is
up schools?
slaving away, picking cotton.
Would you allow
So
that
those
person to
people,
continue to shoot up
people
schools?
can disagree with me and make them wrong, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I agree with you. I'm just trying to figure out, like, what do we mean when we say justice?
Right. Justice is the way I view justice. Justice is the way I view justice, right? I understand people might think that's slightly arrogant, but you have to view justice the way you view it, or else you can't view justice at all.
Justice doesn't exist.
Isn't
I think that's an interesting question. I would say. So, oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Go on.
yeah, isn't justice about maintaining life, keeping life, as opposed to tearing it down, destroying ourselves?
That's true.
Yeah,
Isn't
that's
that ultimately
that's
what
I
it
was
is?
gonna go into, because the point
There
of
are
justice,
philosophers that believe that.
the point of justice is to punish people that are taking away other people's, I guess, freedoms, God-given
How do you know
freedoms
that?
that we recognize
How do you know that? Where does that come from?
from law. I'm just.
Really? And where does law come from? Like, where did they get this definition from?
Look,
What are
the
you
way I'm
asking?
speaking right now,
That's a
I'm
different argument.
expecting you to already know these things. I'm not trying to define these things. So,
He's challenging me.
Where is it coming from? No, I'm serious, like, because I was at a philosophy lecture recently, and we were talking about justice, and, like, this idea of justice, it
Etymology,
doesn't... I mean, it's just, like, where
no,
does
I
this idea
understand,
of
but this
justice
is
come
not.
from?
I understand what your argument is. I just don't. This is not my point that was going.
Okay,
into.
can I respond to you
I was
first, Ben?
looking
Can I
up what the
respond? Because this is
purpose
a
of
famous
justice is.
philosophical question. This is a famous philosophical question. There are many answers. Many answers. So first of all, it's like you ask me on like, if get me, like, correct me if I'm wrong. You're asking, like, where right and wrong comes from, where morality comes from. What makes morality?
I mean, justice is not just morality, right?
So the way I defined justice was giving what the innate feeling I feel when I feel something wasn't right. So if you didn't get what you deserved, I feel unjust. Which means if you worked hard and then you didn't get your money, that's unjust. And if you killed someone and didn't get your punishment, that's also unjust.
So
I would say that's totally acceptable because it doesn't matter the definition for this conversation right now. The
Okay.
point was just how to enact justice or like what the purpose of it is, right? So what I was gonna say is that justice inherently its purpose is to punish people that acted unjust or not moral, immorally, right? But
Right.
we can't forget that it has to have a system implemented in it which allows for people to be forgiven, right, for whatever they have done, so that they can come back to society, right, and reintegrate. And I think we usually don't think about us being the murderer or us being the ones that are treated unfairly.
Right.
And so we can't really imagine being the ones that are on the wrong side of justice. So
I understand.
we are normally too harsh against like people that are like
No,
bad
not true.
people in our eyes. But yeah, we should also give them a chance, you know.
True. I need to go like very soon because I need to go. But I'll just add on that one point, which is something that I could agree on, is the current system where they just let you out of prison and now you have to figure out your life on your own is pretty stupid. So a very small practical implementation we can actually do is that before we let someone out, we let them out in stages and having to go to psychologists and actually seeing the world and giving them jobs, you know, actually allowing them to go to the world without just dropping them off in the middle of a huge functioning city. You know, I think that's something that for shocking no one does, and I think that's something we could implement. I think. Do you agree with me?
Yeah. I mean, interestingly enough, I think there's a really good case example on YouTube. Actually, I think his name is Titan. I don't know if you've seen his YouTube channel.
I have not.
The dude was a prisoner, and in prison he worked behind a CNC machine, and he was taught how to work on a CNC machine. And he literally made a company right after he came out of prison. He got a credit, made a company, and now he's like a millionaire. You know, and now he makes videos and teaches all other people to work on CNC machines, how to program them. He teaches them all the skills he's learned so that they get that same opportunity. And he goes from prison to prison, bringing his machines to teach other prisoners. I think he's a really good case study.
Right. So that works. Okay, fine. I have to go. Great talking to you guys.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, man. It's about justice and the origin of justice. I mean, inherently justice is derived from morality, what your society thinks is right and what your society thinks is wrong. I mean, a Christian has a very different perspective of what justice is than, I don't know, a communist Chinese person, right? A Christian, for example, would give much more leeway for freedom to regain trust and forgiveness, whereas somebody that lives in a society like Confucianism or communism, they aren't as forgiving and would be more ready to punish somebody until death.
Didn't we have like witch burnings and like Christians had guillotines and all of that?
Christians didn't have guillotines. The guillotine was invented by literally secular people in the French Revolution.
Yes.
And
So
they were
wait,
killing
wait.
priests
Wait,
and
can
clerics,
you-
Christians.
Can you repeat your definition of justice?
No, I just said that justice is derived from morality. And morality,
Okay.
so you need to define morality.
I mean, it's not really. I mean, it means righteousness or equity, like justitia. That's where justice comes from. It's not really morality.
I don't think justice derives from morality. I think both of them derive from the same thing.
Yeah, what is that?
I think that. Wait.
And you also make a distinguishment between ethics and morality here, right?
Well, if they derive from the same thing, you would need to prove that justice can exist apart from morality.
I don't think justice exists. Or like, yeah. I think it's completely subjective, and it's all based on, as you said, like maybe in the Christian cultures we have a different view on certain things.
That's not true. Like, if morality and justice derive from the same thing, if both things come from the, sorry, if justice and morality come the same thing, me proving that one can exist without the other doesn't prove that they come from the same thing. What it proves is that whatever is creating justice and morality cannot exist without both of them. So the same way, like a functionally human being needs a respiratory system and a cardiovascular system, morality and justice are parts of that thing. So I cannot, they cannot exist in any case without the other because both of them are parts of something bigger. So what you just said is false.
So what is the definition of justice? What is the definition of justice and morality to you?
Are you saying that if morality exists, justice necessarily also has to exist?
Yes. Yes.
Maybe.
So I think both of them.
Actually, no. No, it doesn't. We can have a totally unfair society, but we can still view things as unfair.
Well, no, because the concept of justice emerges when you have a set of rules to follow, and that happens when you live in a group. At least it's like when you are inside the system, because a system is defined by the rules. So when you have a system that has rules that you need to follow to be part of them, the fact that because we have free will, we can break those rules, but there has to be consequences of breaking those rules, and that is just justice. Is that making sure that the system, the rules of the system are constant.
All right.
That is like.
I would say that it's derived from the rules of morality in that case.
No, because the rules of morality are derived by the rules of the system. That system that imposed. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's morality, and then morality establishes rules, and then justice it comes with the consequences of breaking these rules. But morality can change